Dr. Lifesgud.
Poet.
Hey, kunjani ndoda?
Hey, I'm solving 1,001 problems. I will before.
Yeah, fixing.
Monakala kahle.
Yeah, ngathi uthanda ukuba on the other side.
I'm using my iPad. I'm trying to, let me see. So
we so close to middle center, manch.
So is that the right way?
That's cool. Yeah, much better. Much better. Yeah, I mean. Otherwise, how are things going, Dot?
I go rough, man.
Yeah?
Go rough. I've never been this busy. And I was meant to leave no February. But I had to put everything down and just focus on, you know. I need to get over the finishing line. I'm a project in busy now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I
know. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for your time. Hey, no, it's the same, daughter. Hey, juggling a lot of stuff, you know. Kids, BrownSense, my 825. I think some people are looking in the 825. Yeah, when I say hi, BrownSense.
Like, keep membership fee.
You know, I'm like, no, semi plantation, Mazalwan. I'm still there, but yeah. So, I love life. Don't love life. So I'm now, hey you. No time. Nice. Yeah, man. Anyway, without further ado, let's introduce and part of your introduction, I'm very curious. Would he maybe tell us about the Dr. Lifesgud, what inspired that, where it comes from, what it means, etc.
Yeah. I come as Selebogo Molefe, as people can see on the screen. Most people call me Olebu. Olebu is short for Selebogo. Selebogo is a Tswana name. It was a blessing in disguise. Auntie Babam was tasked with signing me up a local Home Affairs. My parents named me Olebohang. Nobody at home calls me Selebogo. And Auntie Baba Ukoko. She did her own things, and you know, I've had to stick with the name, and I like it because, you know, Eswazini bangbizu wongani, ekhaya bangbizu Lebu, IT book, and as a start and bangbizu Selebogo. So it's an interesting history there. Better known as Dr. Lifesgud, and why I come from the streets. I used to work in the informal sector, being a hairstylist at some point in the early 2000s. And I used to be a very good listener. Majority of my customers were women. And I became a shrinker pretty much, you know. And I got more customers than everybody else in the salon because they just kept on coming to me. Like, my problems, and I was not advising. Being my mail and serious. That was it. And then I got into a learnership in corporate to Drake and Scott around 2004. And I built a relationship with one of our suppliers, Lucia. And around the same time, I had just moved into a commune or into a house that we ended up making it a commune. And I had a friend, Upinki. Upinki loved the brand LG. Life's good, you know. So, and we kind of loved the good life. We lived in the burbs, you know. We're trying to make it out. So it kind of stuck, you know. And I started a company in 2004, Lifesgud. And at the time, it used to be called Lifesgud.com. It was a lifestyle event. And my friend Lucia is hearing about this Lifesgud thing, and she's like, "Marawana, you know." And these things just start kind of connecting. And she's like, one day she's like, Dr. Lifesgud, and it just stuck. To this day. I loved it. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna adopt it because I'm trying to adopt the good life. And part of the good life for me is being a good friend and, you know, listening in, especially with my female friends. That's kind of what stood out for them with in terms of my bang friends owner. So yeah,
yeah, but it turned out well for you, yeah.
Yeah, no. It helped me build something, an alter ego of sorts.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting. It's a colorful background. So you mentioned Eswazini, Bagbiza Bongan. You've got a Swati heritage as well.
Yeah. Oh, Baba Amine. My grandmother and my granddad had my dad, and they split. It was one of those. In fact, my grandfather ran away after that. KZN. There's a big Sotho tribe in KZN. So and kind of settled there. Found another woman, married her, and had a bunch of kids with her. My grandmother as well went back to Swaziland because she met this man, Strati in THROWBACK. Went back, had my dad, Ekhaya Swazini, and then had to go out and look for a job. So my grandmother remarried about 5 times. She got married about 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. And she had about 12 kids. So that there's that rich heritage. I've got parts of me that are just pure Sotho. In fact, I was born at Kroonstad, Emaukeng, in the Free State, at my mother's home, Kabo Mamami, who's a Kroonstad. Mama Mumxhosa, Marama Xhosa as a Free State. So I've got this beautiful heritage that has kind of exposed me to different cultures where my mother's Xhosa, but we grew up in a Sotho household on her side. My dad is Sotho, but we grew up in a Swati household on his side. And then my dad went out seeking for his dad when we were born, and that's how we got to discover our KZN family. We've got a huge family. And I've never been there. In fact, I've been in Mzuzukile, but I've never been Kabo time. Like but it is what it is. We're here. But I've got a great relationship with the family. They come here, my cousins, my uncles. Some land.
That's good. Anyway, thanks to our guest Abbas joining it tonight. I don't even know what's the hot thing on TV. So you guys are sacrificing whatever is hot on the Thursday night or 7 p.m. to join us. Lebu, I think for the benefit of our guests, maybe just for us to lay the context or the foundation. Those who don't know, Lebu is the co-founder and director THUD, or the Hookup Dinner. Is how you and I met, not necessarily at the Hookup Dinner, but because of the Hookup Dinner and the work that I do through BrownSense. So I'm gonna focus on a different number of elements, about what makes up Ulebu. So your journey from you've highlighted your days in the streets, working at the salon, your internship or learnership at drug, between a scale and drugs.
I'm at drugs.
I'm a boy.
Drake and Scout.
Yes. How did you take us through your journey, and your metamorphosis, from that space into becoming a full-on entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, like all of us, I'm not that much unique. I'm the sum of my experiences, and what people experience as Ulebu today is the things that I've experienced across my life. Grew up in a poor household, Baba Mumfundi, Sumama Ines, and we just lived a life of struggle. That was one of the unfortunate things, and a big part of it had to do with my dad leaving his worldly life, and I don't know why I ended up. Baba me used to do my advice, ran businesses. He was a handsome looking fella. In fact, that's what my mom fell for. She was the classical Xhosa woman. She was gorgeous. They were the it thing in town, and then they meet. He impregnates her, and then he finds Jesus, and then it goes downhill from there. Because the church he joined told him that imali and all of that. So he would take entire money and throw it into the church structure. And he was quite abused. He was brainwashed to a certain extent. And, it's just one of those. But his beliefs from a godly perspective, I would say that's what has sustained us. That's why I'm still alive myself. I don't think we would have had a dad if it was not for church. So there's definitely good parts to what happened, because he grew up without a father and he wanted to do things differently. So I grew up in Swaziland, Benglusi, Nkomo, and all of that, and I was the only child who was not living with my parents. And then Swaziland, badlala ngemithi, bathi ba cala ngagula. And then my parents smuggled me out one December, and I never came back. Manje Swaziland bayazibuza because mina ngiyila. Anyway, I came back to South Africa full time in 1990, and my parents by then were bahlale Hillbrow, and my brother was so he was turning 3 because he was born in 87, and that was a new journey. So we're living in the streets in Hillbrow. Like when I say streets, I'm just talking about the concrete jungle. And we lived a nomadic life. We're moving from flat to flat because we couldn't quite afford. Initially, before I moved there, my parents were living in a massive flat. And then I had to walk into poverty when I got the site. So I was gonna keep, Through that, my dad has always wanted the best for us. So even when he was unemployed or they got me into a good school. I went to Observatory Primary. So moving from Emakaya, I was quite good in school actually. Moving from Emakaya and into that environment, that did something for me, just in terms of exposure and stuff. And then so I did primary there, like a later primary. They made me repeat because I didn't know Afrikaans. That's why I hate Afrikaans to this day, because everything else being a passashat. Then I moved from Dapo Angena into high school, JP Boys High. And they chose that school because my dad read an advert that says it makes men out of boys. And I never got it, because that's where I experienced racism and bullying, and were some of the first blacks that got into white schools in Joburg, and it was brutal for us. It was really brutal. I mean, I almost killed a boy in school because of the tensions and stuff that was happening around them. So there were parts of that. And I come out of school in 99 and I'm expecting that university because I'm Pasek sharp and stuff. And then reality hits when you're firstborn. If my parents must sacrifice that for me to do that, that means my siblings must go into shady schools because they're still coming through the system. So it was it for me. We didn't understand, Kaya, we were not really focused around my career guidance. I just knew that I was either going to be a lawyer or a businessman. So we didn't understand which there were opportunities for bursaries and we're just totally blind to that world. So I found myself on the streets, did hair, about like a boy, anything that I could do just to make a living and support, because when you first born and I must play my role. And we sold clothes, we started a whole clothing label, and we even got to dress like about Bad Boy T, which is with Thomas Manj, and about Root Boy Paul, we got our clothes into this. So I kind of found my feet in terms of selling from my heart, in terms of, so I would not sell and say buy this. I would wear something and make people fall in love with it, and that's kind of where my entrepreneurial spirit was really like amplified from what I was doing in high school, or isn't and that kind of shaped my experiences. And the crazy thing is, in construction I worked in Ekaya, we come from a household, Amazimzi, and there's like 2 ladies, and I'm talking about my dad's family, like his siblings. So we knew if you didn't know how to build, there was something wrong with you. So being plastera, being penda, and I was really good at these things, especially in painting and stuff. So I had to join the family factory, right? We would walk around Joburg. We built a lot of the news cafes that you see. We did a lot of houses, the North Cliff. That's why I kind of got exposure and got to dream a bit more. Just, and then moved from that and got into Drake and Scout through a learnership. This was in 2004. And, I both hated it and I loved it. I hated it because construction I made quite a lot of money doing a piece job. And I remember we're doing tiling outside Discovery, the old Discovery building. And you know, from fresh, now overall in and there's these guys all wearing suits, they're walking into this building. At I'm fine. Imali pets, la people getting like no ganjan. At the Malay pets, idlule yabo, khululeka, phuma lapho. So I wanted to was fresh. And that made me desire to be in corporate. And I went from earning my 2025 because it was project based per month, and this is my early 20s, to earning 1,450 rand on a stipend because I wanted to speak English and sit behind a computer. So it was a bad move from that perspective, because I could have probably grown in the construction sector and gone and done really amazing things. And it was also the beginning stages of the construction boom. So there was so much learnings that I could have garnered, but I left that journey because I wanted to be clean, right? And then I found myself in Drakenskau. It was a facilities management company. I got in at the same time as Untate Bonang Mohale. He got in there and he was our CEO, and he was the best blessing ever. You were proud to work for that company as a Black person because he got in and he turned everything upside down. Drakenskau was the most transformed company in South Africa between 2004 and 2009 when he was there. It won the most contracts in the public sector as well as the private sector, managing non-core services for other companies. And so that's kind of where I got to grow wings, where I got to learn organizing events, where I got to be validated by the number one citizen in a company, the CEO, who would give me an opportunity to present to the board around doing a year-end function for the company and say, and so I had to fight and negotiate. So I kind of got really great mentorship around this. And it's also where I got grounded around family. That man, all you know about Bonang Mohale is Usuzi Waki. Wow. His two daughters. So I wanted to emulate that so much. And I really loved how he just loved freely. He loved his kids. And in the company, he loved from a sweeper all the way to, like, everybody could identify with this man. He had this charisma. He's got a very small, body size. He's a giant. He's a giant of note. And those 5 years of my experience is what shaped my adult life in terms of when I finally got the confidence and courage to pursue entrepreneurship full-time or run business full-time. I exited in 2009 when he exited. And the reason I exited, there were retrenchments, but also I just hit the ceiling with my career. There was nothing else to move towards. They were just moving me sideways instead of being able to move to leap from. So I decided, no, let me take the leap and try this entrepreneurship thing. And in the first year, only got one client, Lamba. Shine ne Provident Fund ngayibhekisale kwamela ukuthi ngiphume ekhaya kwamela ukuthi ngiphume la ngihlala khona eMasaba ngibuyele ekhaya
there's a very key point you touched on. So you left your construction business where you were getting paid quite a significant amount of money. You got attracted by what you saw, perception and all that stuff. Which seems, well, one would say it was not a smart reason for that transition. But would you say lessons or learnings that you then got to be exposed to was the flip side of the coin? You took a significant cut in income yako, but what you then got exposed to and who you got exposed to far outweighs what you forfeited in terms of hard cash.
It's a catch-22, to be honest now, Mzu. It's a catch-22 because my peers who were in construction at the time, in fact, I'll count 2 guys who now were focused on Jengami. The only difference, they were educated, but I was in the thick of things. We were building a restaurant, and so I would get into spaces that the average Daga boy wouldn't be able to get into because they translate my plan and they were the ones who are holding my contract. And I knew, or rather, in hindsight, those because we're always subbing from them, is that seeing my uptake and my street smart and the ability to read a plan fast and be able to translate to the rest of my team, that could have gotten me into some serious BEE deals, you know. So remember, I'm talking about the construction boom coming up, and I'm a streetwise black boy, or you know, so I could have probably been in nice spaces for construction for that boom that was happening. I could have probably found myself in the right boardrooms in line with the skill and ability that I already developed. Because Wabnganwami mentored me quite well. He trained me quite well in that business. It just needed wings. So now I was going to start afresh in corporate. But the reason I say it's a catch-22 is because when I look at the lessons that I gained in corporate over those 5 years, they're incomparable. So it's like maybe the journey was okay in the way that it turned out, but there could have been a huge opportunity where I could have been far ahead in terms of riches quicker, to be honest with you, in the 5 years. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay. So then you left your learnership, took your, was it provident fund, pension fund, what business?
Yeah.
Take us through that chapter of your life.
Yeah, it's that chapter that now in hindsight, I thought I was depressed, but I was actually just broke, you know.
Yeah.
And Lobo broke, Lobo sending me back home, and to get a job and what, and I'm trying to believe in this entrepreneurship thing. He first born, but I was so in fact, if first born, that's just how it works, you know, in that environment. So it was a challenging one. And I could say I was fortunate enough because my business partner was supportive of my move in terms of where I was moving into Upakiso. He was still working in a job, so we would find ways to share the load in different ways. I mean, he still had a salary, so I mean, I would utilize the bike, and you know, like we found ways to try and kind of find his space set. What I was doing in the 5 years whilst in corporate, I was still running a business as I did. It's just that when you decide to run business full time and that's the salary you're taking, the game changes a bit because you don't realize which your job has been shielding you from so much because you've been funding a lot of the things through your job. And sometimes, you know, you hit Iloto with a client or two there and you make some serious money, so you think you are made type of thing, and you think you can handle this on your own. So it was that type of transition. We're making beanbags, and we're running entertainment events. So we're running a lot of lifestyle events. We would hire posh properties in Joburg North and live on them, and hire those properties out for events and stuff. Whether it was matric dance after parties or it was private parties, there was always a vibe, there was always something to do, and therefore it helped me build rapport amongst my community in terms of what I was doing. The one thing that I've always been obsessed by all the way back to 2004 is that I've always wanted to create beautiful experiences for Black women and safe experiences for them. So when I was selling matric dance after parties, I would go and sell to parents. I wouldn't sell to the students. I would say to the students, take this letter to your parents. The parents would see it, they'd be like, okay, you can go to your matric dance after party. And parents are not known to agree to parties and stuff. Because in my value proposition, I'd say, Pegala, your parents can drop you off after your matric dance. They can bring you here, or we can pick you up from the matric dance to our property. But in the morning, your parents can come in. So we provided really clean, safe spaces. They would have fun. Funny enough, they would still drink and stuff, but it was safe, fun. Everybody was safe. They knew that they are taken care of. And I had that whole lifestyle about beanbag because that's what we sold as a product, right? We sold it, we sold them, and we hired them out. And even when we evolved from that to running house parties and it was always centered around Black women and them feeling safe, feeling in a safe space. And maybe that was my alter ego speaking to me and stuff. And that's why Lucia called me Dr. Lifesgud, right? And that transition post corporate and getting into the Richard Branson Center of Entrepreneurship, this was what in 2011, post the World Cup. I found myself assisting in that center in terms of I applied to get into the program, but I found myself helping them to source Black entrepreneurs in townships for them to get into the program. And during that, that's when I started THUD. But I started THUD because I was trying to create, originally THUD was not for entrepreneurship. The reason it was called the hookup dinner is because I was doing lifestyle events. And the lifestyle events before THUD, it was called the sex and intimacy dialogues. That's where I met my ex-wife. So between midway 2010 and into 2012, because I started that in 2012, I was running the sex and intimacy dialogues with my ex-wife and a few other people. And again, it was about demystifying sex, selling sex toys, but doing it any-nos. Or, you know, like those types of spaces where we have a little table. So it was intended. Because you would never think you were expecting us to be in a strip club or something, right? But we're like, no. We want to do it at Nino's. We're going to have it careful, a little bit respectful. When as a sister, bring your man here. We're going to tell him that you can use sex toys together with him. And that was the value proposition. And we did great because I want to loved it. We're moving around Joburg. We're getting interviewed by our T-Boys on, like there was a vibe going on. And then because I'm a creepy crawly because we're participating regularly on a radio show at night, right? I don't know how they got hold of her number because, you know, we used to sell and stuff. But I was phone and my message right. And then we're like, we're dropping this. And I just tired. So I had to find something else to replace that, you know. As a meeting for sex toys, okay. Let's do a hookup. But when we're doing the hookup, because of my entrepreneurs, there were like 8 of us around the table. 5 of us were entrepreneurs, the other 3 were in corporate. And it was in Braamfontein, Japanese noodle bar. The meal was $30 between 2 people. So we could have, you know, a sizable meal that looks fancy. We didn't have a liquor license. We went around the corner to buy liquor from the bottle store. You wine, 30 rand, and it was a vibe. We're like, this works. We must do this again. So what's this? The hookup. You know, this the hookup. So after the deep conversations that took place that night, we're like, we need to do this thing again. So we're going to do it month end. I sharp. Hey, the marketer in me is like, yeah, we must have another hookup dinner. Hey guys, we're having a hookup dinner. I always like creating experiences for people, right? So, because I'm an entrepreneurs from across the road as a BrownSense center, you know, but picture is stress, but broke, like I want to so let's hook up over cheap wine and cheap Japanese noodle, noodle meal. I forgot what it's called. And as a result, because we're entrepreneurs, so we called it the hookup dinner, and it was focused on entrepreneurs. That's how we stumbled into the entrepreneurship space and found ourselves having authentic conversations where nobody was lying in that room. Like, Mauti or grand in it was like, I uncle grand. I don't even know how I'm gonna make rent this month. It was those type of dialogues that were happening, and it's just us around the table, one large table in that place, and having like really serious conversations. And what we found through that dialogue was that because man, it's in plan. You know, there was that natural thing happening around the table, and it was a mix. There were Indians, there was everybody. Like, it was this melting pot in Braam where we are all just trying to make it, really. So the third THUD that happened in the 3rd month, everybody was like, no, I can bring a sound. In the social media. And everybody invited everybody. So the ripple effect was that word was getting out with little marketing, because word of mouth was filtering through. And I'll spend money, like, it's, you know. So now we have to find structure. Okay, it's just banding, imagine. I'll just want a picture or anybody who wants to share their business idea. You know, and a land took 20 people. So now we're full. We look like, hey, no, so we are big now. By the time we had the 4th event, I think it was in December, you know, it was a feisty vibe. It was cool and stuff, especially because Braamfontein has got that type of youthful. By then, we can't even fit in that little Japanese noodle bar of ours. We are just, we're having dialogues now. We must decide, okay, only 5 people can share tonight. That's how the pitching was born. Maybe we must have somebody speak, share something. So that's how the speaker platform was born out of that. And then the networking, were like, authenticity is at the core of what we're doing. So we must constantly foster the culture of networking. And I was constantly trying. I've always been a connector. I was constantly looking around like, hey, lo uzile, and hey, lo uzile mara usabukhuluma nabantu. And I understood because nami ngisabukhuluma nabantu. Like, hey, zwakala la ngihlanganisa nosibani bani. You trust me, you've got a lot in common. Bambo munye, hey wena, zwakala la khuluma nosibani bani. Wena lo usababantu awumsize ukuthi amise abanye abantu. And that type of energy and vibe just found itself ballooning up, because after all, a lot of the entrepreneurs who were in the room, they had skills. Even the working professionals, they had a lot to contribute. And that's kind of how our slogan came about, that we're going to connect, engage, and contribute to each other's success. That was always the center for me, which we must contribute to each other's success. As corporate, let's see whether we can help each other. And I think that kumbaya spirit and that energy which has in Sasizana, like it caught on, because that's how I got to meet OP. OP caught us for a couple of months, and then he's like, hey, come to the table. SAP is trying to launch this thing out, and he was running the enterprise development program there, and he was about to run the program nationwide. And he's like, we don't have to do it as SAP. You guys are already doing it. Let us power you. So he came at the right time. It was an idea whose time had come. And around that time, there's a lot of entrepreneurial energy happening in Bra. I'm gonna go DJ Spoon up, they're reaching out, and Mago Metro. Everybody's just trying to get into the space and like, hey guys, let's connect. Just I'm a speaker, man. Yes, Shesa. It's just a Friday, and we always meet on the first Friday of the month. And the reason was, you are either here or you're at a party. So if you chose to come here, you must be the real ones for this type of tribe and community. So that's how we built out, and that's how that kind of found itself in the right space at the right time. And then, as they say, that the rest is history. I mean, I found myself traveling across the African continent and all the way into the UK, building this thing out. And it's been a really amazing journey, around building communities. Yeah.
Wow, man. You should write a book.
Yeah, everybody tells me that.
Let me ask you, have any of the THUD events ever been captured on video?
Yeah, there's a lot on YouTube. I'm gonna go YouTube, search for the hookup dinner page, or get onto Google. Actually, just search for the hookup dinner. You're gonna find a plethora of content and videos from the different chapters. Lesotho, for instance, Lesotho was the hottest THUD. It gave me a reason to go to Lesotho, because they've got the most beautiful people on the continent, in my view. And Bagbiza Ntati.
People.
You know the people I'm talking about. Lesotho kind of breeds a lot of innovation there. Totally underrated. It's got a lot of highly educated, smart, globally traveled, well-traveled people. So I almost went there to refill. I got to learn from them. We broke bread. We became real brothers and sisters. And I would take those ideas and bring them back into South Africa, and for us to expand on whatever that we were doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in all of that, like, what's the period, like, in how many years, from and I'm just trying to, I'm not saying with a formula in terms of keeping it for 5 years or whatever. We've compressed it into plus minus maybe 10 minutes or so, but do everything from your leadership, your Lifesgud events, sex and intimacy, in how long, or what's the duration that what's the number of years that have all of that has gone through?
It's about 20 years now.
20 years. Summarize your experience just in 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. So I'm trying to give you as much as possible of me, so that there's something to extract for, because different people are looking for different things out of this, right?
No, I get that. I think my point would seem, I need to people look at, they will look at you, hear what you say,
Yeah.
it sounds like, wow, this guy has got it all, together and whatever, but they don't know the time, the commitment, and what we are about to get to Konamanje, which is the lows, the tough times, the misses, the losses, and all of those. The times when you thought, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
If ever that thought has ever crossed your mind, you understand us. And there's a reason why I say this. Out here, there's something he once did to some guy. I forgot. I don't even remember the guy that I'm interviewing. But I like what he did. So this guy basically shared a story of how he made it, and the story was, I was selling a product. I don't know what product he was selling, and then I just managed to find a number a decision maker at company X. I got into my no, he didn't get the number. He got the address, so where this guy stays, right?
Okay.
Got into the plane, got into a taxi, went to this guy's house or Kokota, and then he did his pitch. The guy liked the pitch, and then they signed the deal. Then it sounds like a movie. It's all romantic. Yeah. So then Ukeri pulls him back and he says, "Whoa, Madangare, what you've just told me, to me, it sounds like you were stalking this guy. Take us through the process." Through the process, you understand? Because Mina, if someone showed up at my house that I've never met, never gave my this way, then then I'll be like, you understand what I'm saying? So those are the things that I think I would like for you maybe to feel, Uchi, with all the achievements, before we go to the journey in terms of where we are now.
Yeah.
What have been the lows? And you deal with them?
It's crazy. There's been more lows than highs.
Mm.
That's just the nature of the beast, right? the latest that we can think about at this stage are business failures, right? Prior to that, it's marriage failure. For a while, I felt like I failed my kids so bad because I've always wanted to provide that family structure where they have a mom and a dad in the same household, and it continues like that. And that we failed at that, and we had to evolve and do it differently. And we're very fortunate that we're in a very good space from a corporate point of view. But prior to that, there's many business ideas that I tried to launch that didn't work out. Yeah. There's many times when I have found myself a bike strapped with 3 bean bags on my back, trying to go and sell or deliver them in some office park and being the laughing stock. Because literally, I want you to have a picture here. Bike. I had 3 on my back strapped to me, and my dad would help me with strapping that to go and deliver them, just so that I could make $500. Those are the stories we don't tell quite often because you just like, you're trying to glorify your, or whatever. Like, and also sometimes we forget, up until it comes up or we're being asked, we forget the tough times we've been through. So that a lot of that has happened. Or I could take you to a time in my life when myself and my boy Ubonga, we walked from Eastgate to town, from town to Randburg on multiple occasions because we didn't have the money and we're job seeking. And I could take you through the times when I would submit my CV onto multiple platforms and we got scammed most of the time. 50 rand or or the time when one tried to study and studied in a college in Bram and were scammed when we went back for, certificates that there was no college. So I come from that side of life. Kuna bantu who've got a clear path that have gone through varsity and it's been hanky-dory. I mean, I come from the streets through and through. That is my testimony of my life. And it's not about Tuti, this is just me saying I did what I could with what I had, and I'm grateful to be at this stage in my life in terms of where I'm at right now. But there's been a lot of lows more than highs. We in our own family we went through 10 years of domestic violence between my parents. And as a result, I grew up hating my dad, you know, because that was an easy thing to do. Kids automatically side with their mom without question. You know, I almost killed my dad because, you know, I felt like I needed to protect my mom. But when I was an adult and my two siblings and I were sitting having a drink and actually just reflecting about our childhood, we were like, yo, mom was toxic, yo. Because now we could reason without emotion, without the emotional attachment of, because we could see things like, as mama yo yo lomlomo akhe mana yeah. You know, in fact, that conversation was started by my sister. She was just like, oh, and I would sit there and be like, how did this man make it through this? You know,
sure.
Because now we could unpack and be like, these are the reasons why 1, 2, 3 takes place, or why this took place. And we're fortunate that it was just within 10 years. After that, we've never experienced that type of thing from our parents. So they healed from their own things. And, you know, we're fortunate that they're still together and they walk in this journey together all the way, even now. But that demystified a lot. It broke us with inside in a lot of ways. And we never actually went for therapy. So there's also a bottling of emotions. From when we were growing up and dealing with things by yourself without any external intervention, or, you know, like all of that are childhood traumas that you try and deal with as an adult, and you try and make do with whatever that you think is the right way in terms of what you're doing. And we're fortunate that as we go through different phases of our lives and we meet different people, we learn new things. And you know, it's been a blessing for me that but I've never laid hands on both my girls, you know, and yet sharp. So it's teaching me that there is an alternative path in terms of how you can raise a child with love and discipline and still get them to, you know, all the things that our parents were trying. And you know, I was not one of those wild kids. And if they can say so they grew up in a violent environment. That's what they knew. That's what they transferred onto their kids. Then the violence continued in that way. And it was up to me to break that pattern and start a new chapter. And a lot of that has to do with meeting other people who are growing up differently, you know. So there's multiple lows that have happened throughout my life. And I think my consistency has always just been around, you know, so if I give up, then what now? So you know, Ekaya, we are not wired that way. And I'm even talking about my uncles and everybody else. We are just not wired that way. Like you get up, you know, like you do what you have to do because you know, and it's not just for yourself anymore. It's for all the other people ekhaya. It was always that, and that's how I found myself again. Because when I started again, it was a low for me because I went to JP Boys. Bengikhuluma English mfethu engithola bengitshela you know khona sister bengimthola wahlangana nami ngingcolile ngicela udaka wangidampa. And I still remember it so well. We were building a we were building a new Woolies, a Israel Mall, and we could only build after hours. Like Auntie, she was there for movies with her girls, right? And there I am, I'm walking after because I'm in Suspan after hours. And then I got born, and then we are born. So now I'm saying for choice scam, next. And I'm going to embarrass her because clearly I'm embarrassing her now. She walked past like she didn't see me. She's because she's a yellow, like it messed with me psychologically around I must have money in my life because otherwise women don't play, you know. They go rough. And I think that's part of the reason I found myself desiring to be in corporate instead of Otaga.
Sure. Although mine is a different story, so I was dating someone when I was doing my articles work. So I was a candidate and I was at the time of the month, so when just enough money to survive those remaining 3-4 days before payday. And we meet for lunch, Brown. So, and we are on Sugela. I mean, I said, obviously, because I worked at Parktown. Yeah? Hey, what are you up to? So, I mean, I'm like, it's just cup of tea. It's lunchtime, you know. So she's like, so, I mean, Joe, I was eating my sandwich, ne? What is Wagala? I put it back. Already I'm visualizing a parking somewhere. We're gonna share my lunchbox. So, so first she takes me to KFC. So I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah, don't worry about me. So we get whatever. Then they say 25 friends, whatever. Then she turns to look at me to take.
God.
I was like, so I paid and I paid resentfully. When I got to the office, I'm text her. I'm like, you know what? We need to talk about the money situation. I don't think this is going to work out. So that was the end. That was the end. That was the end. Yes. Anyway, hey, Liz. So I'm losing train of thought here, much. So yes, Nosisilo, have you ever kept in touch with her?
Yeah. Ngithemba ngibashap. Bengifuna iscreenshot ngithi. Ngabiyela lapha yabo. Bese clean phela yo.
Yeah.
Sajola for a few months and then I phuma away. And then funny enough, bumped into her. I think I bumped into her last year or something. And yeah, bengimuhle. Phela sengimuhle manje yabo. Yeah. I look 30, and I know it's childish shame. But I mean, I look 30 and she looks, so she had up. But I was decent. I'm frontagahle, ngadlula neshisa lami.
Yeah, man. So I think maybe just a few minutes to go. I know what you're busy, so maybe before I ask you the next question, are we ever gonna have that back the way like before lockdown in terms of the teaching sessions and stuff?
Yeah, goes. My heart had made peace and concluded that chapter of my life is done. I have served. And it's for others to take on the baton and continue with it. That's where my heart was, and especially in the last 2 years. Just before COVID, I think a year before COVID, I was already slowing down on my events. I was like, I've and I've served, right? But recently, and as recent as and then during lockdown, we launched a franchising Stockfell. And mobilize the masses, and it was that brand equity that assisted in a big way to mobilize that community. It reminded us that the community is alive, and there's amazing things that emerge from this in terms of problem solving and stuff. But the role I play in my life right now is that I'm doing a lot of work and projects behind the scenes, and I'm kind of enjoying the being away from the spotlight. Right, I'm enjoying not feeling the pressure of the public eye, and I can play the fool without worrying about it's going to affect my brand in some form or the other. I can post memes and jokes, I can send nudes, I can do anything I want, and I'm not affected, because you're low key to a certain extent, right? But having said that, I am being lobbied quite hard, and it's crazy that you even asked this. Like, and when I'm saying I'm being lobbied by abantu that I didn't even know would buy as in Pilonium. And people then, abantu from a distance, abantu, they're like, you never get to quit your calling, right? That's how they're putting it. And for them, they're saying, you served, you covered a gap in a space that was needed. It's needed now more than ever. And when you've decided to step out because of land, you can't. That's so there's an internal battle taking place within me right now. Do I do this thing? Mara, you know, it's like the gap still exists and it's wider than it was before.
Sure.
To serve in that space and build confidence and courage. And you know, I think my role is to help build collective courage.
Sure.
That's kind of that's kind of what I must serve in. And the fact that in the way that I felt that you know, we've passed on the baton. I mean, abantu abafana aboMashudu, they building communities through Yoko, abo Bulelani, with abo Tina and Nani. I felt like, no, man, I served. Now abantu bakhona. But you know, abantu in the ecosystem of where we operate, they're like, this thing is needed now more than ever. You don't get to walk away. You don't get to do that. You know, so there's a conviction taking place, and this is the 10th year of THUD, and I'm being challenged. Like, and I even asked, I'm like, maybe we need an evolution. Maybe I'm bored. Maybe we need a different angle to this thing. Maybe we need to start a union. Maybe we need to start an association, you know, of entrepreneurs, because the problems I'm solving for now are centered around ikaolo, you know. And when I say ikaolo, as in market access for entrepreneurs, is a big challenge. And I feel and experience the injustices in the different spaces, and I feel like I understand the problem that I must solve for and how I must go about it. And I'm building really strong collaborative networks in the background in terms of how we're doing this. And we're building a multidisciplinary business that is bringing me the best of skills from different walks of life. Like, I am attracting the best of people, and not just here, but across the world. I've got teammates now in Germany. I've got teammates in the US, where, you know, it's a new world of wonder. But I don't have to be in the public eye in terms of doing that. But there's a gap that is missing, and it needs to be covered. And I do believe, Uguti, maybe how I'm going to approach this is that potentially just start off with like quarterly events. But in doing these events, I want to build a strong community of leaders, people that I want. You know, but I would love to see more people come in and do what they need to do, and maybe mobilize more on the side of the people who are sitting in corporate and in decision-making places, who've got the money, but they don't realize that there's this gap, because they keep coming to me, I'll send a log, and I'm like, I'm getting less of space, because I'm very selective around the spaces I'm playing in right now and why I do what I do, right? But there's a gap, and somebody must do something about it, and I am being lobbied with it. Lebza, I will come it, I think. So it's an internal battle that I'm going through.
That's really powerful. You know what you reminded me of? So back like many years ago, when I was like hardcore into church. Not that I'm not into church anymore, but I actually attended a discipleship course, like where they taught us not only how to evangelize, as in you know, stop a random person in a mall, and then, you know, how do you approach them in a way that can disarm them, make them feel threats. That process is very, and I still have the steps in my mind. It's very much a sales approach without the person feeling like we are saying said. Do you understand? Also conversational. You ask some questions. You ask for permission before you move to the next step, so that they feel like they're also in control of the process. Do you understand? And before they know it, you're deep within. You're like, Jesus, this, and what? Let me pray for you. Do you want to hear us? And what I learned was that the whole concept was premised on, instead of me going to approach Abantu one by one, how about finding people that I can train to do the same thing that I'm also doing? That is how, sorry to preach at you guys, but how Ujesu built his thing. 12 guys, picked 12 guys, wabafundisa, and then he sent them away, go do the work.
Over 2 billion enterprise right now.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that your work is done, though, more but Do you understand? There's still a lot of, and the whole point is that it's easy to deal with one label, but if a label multiplies himself into 1,000,000 labels,
yeah,
then we are dealing with something that cannot. I can then I stop at that
yeah.
movement.
I
You
agree
understand?
with you.
Yeah. Level before you, Valen, I think there's something that you've touched on in one of your posts. Maybe as a word of advice, two things actually.
Yeah,
The one is people like myself who are still in the workplace and they've got businesses that they're building. They're like, yo, I
yeah.
wanna be full time. Like yesterday. What would you advise then in terms of transitioning from where you are as an employee and becoming full time into your business?
Yeah,
And then the last question is also with regards to people that are in the corporate space.
yeah,
That might have some kind of empathy or passion or whatever towards entrepreneurship. What role can they play? Laba corner. They might not have aspirations of becoming entrepreneurs
yep,
themselves, but they might know Ulebu, they might know,
yes,
Mzuluya, etc. What role can you play while you are there and say, look,
yeah,
I want to make an impact. This is what I'm doing, and how can we work together?
yeah. I get you. I was watching a video, Jay-Z, is on.
Yeah.
The quote goes along the lines of nobody's free until we're all free. So you
Sure.
don't get to quit. You don't get to say I'm doing me. Because, and I always contextualize this just around, I'm in a very happy space right now, and that happy space is because I'm able to do things for my kids. I'm able to, and it's not about providing, I'm able to be present for them. And because I'm raising daughters with my ex-wife, there's just this chemistry that is happening with my kids where I get to see them every day. I get to take them to school. We get to have conversations. They get to tell me of their fears. I get to tell me, and then I get to advise. But like, Daddy, you must come to school. I'm like, no, we're not going to did you, so those little opportunities, the fuel and the fire that comes with that is because I am able to put an income on the table, right?
Sure.
And if I didn't have that money, I would not operate from that happy place, right?
Yeah.
I've got bills, I've got all sorts of things. I'm able to cover my bills and cover my kids and still, enjoy a little bit with them and be able to teach them these things that our parents didn't get the opportunity because they were constantly working just to survive.
Yeah.
I am very fortunate that they gave me that step up, that I don't have to live just to survive. I can do a little bit better, and my experiences have kind of brought me full circle around this. But I must say something for that person who has empathy, who's in the corporate system and who's enjoying themselves, that nobody's free until we're all free. So you don't have to be the one who's giving out a gig to an entrepreneur or whatever, but you must open the door. We have a responsibility to open the door. And opening the door is sharing information. You might be seeing I'm a post entrepreneurs online because I broke or find out within your company share the information. Don't even have to make a personal connection. So like, hey Joe, think about connecting with this department. This is what they do. Share insights. What's missing is insights. Just doing that, you can even do it anonymously. It's a big thing. You're contributing to a larger ecosystem. Small business owners are the largest creators of employment in any country in the world. And we have a crisis larger than any other country in the world. We've got the largest inequality gap. We've got the largest unemployment rate. We've become the worst at everything as a nation. So if you are still within a job, you're very blessed. If you are sitting comfortably, you are able to tune in. Like we've got Wi-Fi. Doing this is for the privileged. So it's our duty to make sure that we pass on the baton, or we make sure that the ladder, we don't pull up the ladder, we keep the ladder there so that more people can climb in. And for some, it's getting jobs within the corporate, and for some, it's they've started businesses or they're stepping out to start businesses. Open the door. Open the door. You have a duty. If you don't, have you seen the crime that is happening in this country? So I started with my kids because I wanted to paint a picture, right? Abantwana bam can't be safe if there's so much unemployment in the country that we live in. The crime that we are seeing, for instance, for abantu abahlala eKasi, and the fear that they have to go through every day is not far from being like Masaba. It's not. I could drive out, as I drive out of my, safe enclosure here, I could get hit by a hijacking. They're rising. And these hijackings and the crime that is happening is becoming more and more brutal. If we thought what was happening 10 years ago, abantu bafaka ingosi ekuma microwave was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. And wherever you stay, whatever suburb you are in, just around the corner, there's a squatter camp brewing. I was laughing because I went to check a client of mine, Douglas Dale. Douglas Dale mfethu ku premium man kumnandi. It's a squatter camp lapha esigangeni. Yay! There's nowhere to hide. And the criminality is emerging from these informal spaces because we've buried our heads and we're saying inkinga yethu sonke. We must solve it by opening the door. We absolutely have to open the door. And then to the other question around wanting to step out into full-time business running as opposed to running it part-time whilst you're in a job, you must rephrase or have a relook at what you think your job is. Your job is the bank. As a full-time entrepreneur, I do not qualify for any credit, but I'm high risk on all fronts. So I live a cash life because of that. Cash doesn't I have to buy, because I'm outside of the credit system. That's one of the things you're going to face. It takes a while before you can build up a credit record because now you've got a viable business and whatever, right? That is the reality. So don't be quick in a hurry to quit your job. Your job is your bank. It's your banker. Literally treat your job as your banker to finance your side hustle up until your side hustle is standing on its own. The best time to quit is when your side hustle is making more money than your job. Then you know what you are launching into something. Why? It's okay to quit your job and go and find yourself when you're in your 20s. In your 30s and 40s, the game is different. What about broke? Same time. And I'm on I get a comment of Nubana. As I'm children about Tampa, a kayak downgrader, I was a senior citizen, so drunken uncle side you want people to feel sorry for you. It's not nice on the other side. Entrepreneurship is hard, it's shaky, it's terrible, but it has its rewards. So before you get carried away by passion and excitement, just be pragmatic in your approach. Make sure that your side hustle is making you more money than thingy. Then when you're stepping into this thing, you can make sure that the person you are married to or the partner, your lifetime partner, and I want to contextualize that, right? Make sure which umuntu onaye ohamba ibanga naye secure umnandi, so that you guys can balance each other out. And then you have a discussion. It must be a sober discussion. No, for the next 3 years, this thing we're trying out might fail, but I want to take the leap, and we're going to use half of our provident fund as a cushion and whatever. Let me build this thing out because it requires me full time to run into it. It's like going to study your MBA. You can step out for 2 years, but you need a supportive partner for the type of stuff to happen. You can't just. The thing is for rich people. Review stories and Silicon Valley stories. Those are people who come from money, guys. We must make money from day one. There's no venture capital funding that's coming. Just go into industry and do the statistics. Actually, the people who are raising money are the people who come from corporate and who come with heavy networks. So when networks are heavy in the finance world, my channels the way, you're playing a totally different game. So just be wary of that, because a lot of us have sabampunga, and it was not necessary. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to be mpunga. You don't have to lose your life in order to find yourself. You don't romanticize the struggle or poverty. It's really terrible, and people just shun you. Like they kind of stay away from you. I have experienced it personally, and I've seen many entrepreneurs experience, including entrepreneurs that I mentor. I find myself saying in charity bank, like in patala ma rent my entrepreneurs, omunye ngimthengela ugesi, omunye ngimthengela ikroza yokuthi. I'm just like, go and find a job. Go find a job, because I know I have been there. I've done those things, and I phone. I remember in Tanayam Isa Spana, going through a really, really bad patch, he would be sending me R100, just getting that. I was so grateful and stuff. I'm just like, no, man, I'm mkhulile. And especially if you have kids, don't make these rash decisions of getting into entrepreneurship full time. Don't believe the hype. Anybody who social media or bizarre, you must be passionate at running into this thing full time. Look at their age, look at their responsibilities, and look at what they're talking about. Vet everything that people tell you. People are lying for popularity because they copying the American script. America. We've got the highest levels of inequality and people are unemployed. And network marketing in a terrible way without telling you about the reality of what's going on. You must still sell, or you must build an online pipeline, and it takes time. And just because you're telling a product things doesn't mean like there's a process that you must go through for you to get to the other side. And if you are sober to that state, then you can take the baby steps that are required so that in Ghana's Akwazi Safari, you don't have to downgrade your lifestyle. You don't have to do a lot of the crazy decisions that we have made without thinking because we're passionate. Passion, Paso.
Hey, words of wisdom, Dot. And you touched on a very key one, but Mangai Kala says the whole hour, 6 hour 9 very soon.
And I'm full up.
Yeah. Good, thanks, man, for your time. There's something this is Okuluma soon, but thanks for your time. And I enjoyed the conversation. And you touching things very pile up hands. It was about part 2.
Okay.
Yeah, for next month, I think. I'll send you some dates.
No worries.
All right. Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Sure.
There you go.